Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Sunday dinner. This is DJ Dupsie, and boy, have we got a treat for you this evening. And so if you heard our promos earlier, you know that this episode is going to be talking about genetic light from the other side. We're going to take this concept from John Trudell's Crazy Horse and really just expand on it for the next hour. And so the next voice you're going to hear is that of Stan Rushworth. He's going to get us started here with a reading here. So I will turn it over to you, Stan.
Thank you. Restoration Journey, Point Reyes Station, a prayer. Call in wind, call in rain, call in earth, and call them now. Please call them now. Ancestors, call them in now. Over us, with us, please. Restoration is the word. Black buzzards floating above the wetlands slopes are the admonition. Call for a sign, and buzzard who made the valleys and mountains long ago with his great wings on fresh, soft earth floats above us in a sound of feathers on air, a whisper of love and warning. Walk along the pasture to the sea, red-winged blackbird standing long on a tall green reed against a silver pond. Fences now, reminders of where we are today. It is simple and beautiful, and a layer of cloud hovers, whispering above the trees and water. There is no one on the fields. Restore my soul, breathes earth. But she has no soul, for she is soul, come from water long ago. Little beetle smiles with pride. It is handiwork of earth, and turtle, too, hiding in the grass today. Call in wind, bouncing coyote, watching, jealous, wanting to do better than creation. Everything for him, coyote. The fences around grass-fed beef, Angus black and grazing, beside red-winged blackbird's crimson shoulder, belly feathers black as chert, black as the arrowhead made by the ghost who sits lonely on a white mossed stone at the trailhead's iron gate. The sound of chipping granite on chert long before steel's city sound sings with blackbird's call. They remember those two, sound and bird. Help us now. Bring us back around into what they call future. Wind the threads back upon themselves until they touch, fingers touching, eyes touching what must be seen. Call in wind, she will hear you. Call in earth, call her now. Unlock the gate before the perfect pasture, the postcard beauty she has become. Long ago it was pristine like this, long ago they say, but no, there were thousands dancing on the edge of the sea, clappers chattering out across stone and sand. Now the sticks talk low behind park fences, fences and fences, a man in a yellow vest and earth green clothes with a sidearm, just in case, for this is where we are now. And he smiles. Mammoth buses wait to take the newcomers to the lighthouse that warns ships at sea. They are headed for rocks and crashing waves, and the man in the yellow vest smiles and waves. Ghosts dance on the hillside watching, and the people born now from long ago drive in to dance in the national park from distant towns. In the city, on certain days, uncertain by permit only. 6 in an old Chevy, 7 in a Ford, rusting fenders, dreams of yesterday in their feet as they dance. A yellow Toyota like a flower. Oh, heal me, ancestors. Heal me now. Restore my feet for me now. Make yesterday my tomorrow, and spend their time like cotton candy, round and round inside the metal tube, and let us dance, dance, and when they are gone, only the man in the yellow vest left, let us dance past curfew and touch his soul, his seawater. It is in his eyes. Bird is in his eyes. By the idling diesel bus, let us wait until the moon is full. Calling now, bring down wind and rain, sun and cloud. Itzpoye otasi, the old one from the north says, chipping chert. When the eyes of my heart look into the eyes of your heart and see only good, and the eyes of your heart look into the eyes of my heart and see only good, then we can talk, then we have truth. The newcomers translate this one small word, truth. Please lock the gate, the sign at the trailhead says. A steel eye looping the heavy circle of chain, hanging like a silent wet day. But there is a sound above. Goose makes a V in the sky with all his friends and family and hollers that he is here again and again. Are you there? I'm here by your wing. How about you? I'm on the other side of you. Where are we going? I don't know. Who's leading? I don't know. Honking and honking, 50 of them keeping track, heading northwest, imitating people's sounds and ways, without roads, only sky, free and involved, comedians dancing in the sky. In the silence that is left after Goose drops behind pasture-green hills and perfect farmhouse roofs, stories could rise to be told. They could. Restoration needs light. Lights from all angles peering into the darkness, and stories or the buildings towns could make into historical landmarks. Let's put truth into history, the elder invites, and she will sit down under the gnarled brown oak and talk. She is brimming over through her dark, sparkling eyes, waiting for someone to just ask. Call in wind. Call in rain, call in earth, and call them now. Please call them now. Ancestors, call them in now over us. Please let us listen now.
And Ashe for the reading. All right, so the voice you just heard, I'm going to let introduce himself, and then I'll let my other guests introduce themselves, and we'll get into some discussion about what you just heard. So Stan, if you want to introduce yourself and let folks know who you are.
Hi, thanks, Mark. My name is Stan Rushworth. I've been around here for a long time, since the 60s, actually on the planet since the 40s.
All right.
And my recent history is the last 32 plus years teaching Native American literature and writing at RicoR College.
Shay. All right. And RicoR, would you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Mark. Good to be back. I'm Rico Rushworth. I'm Stan's son. My stage name is RicoR. I'm a local DIY recording artist here in Santa Cruz, and I'm also an incoming master's student at UCSC studying Native and international rap and dominant structures. And I'm a local musician and songwriter, and I played in a lot of bands around town. And a lot of my work focuses on my Native identity and paying attention to that in different ways through my music and through my art and my writing. So it's good to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, this is what, your third time?
It's my third time, yeah.
All right, three-peat. You're the first three-peat.
Oh, there we go.
Yes,
Cool.
Yes, thank you. About what we just read, right? And getting, opening up this conversation about genetic light from the other side. What inspired y'all around this topic, and then looping in the reading that we just heard, right? Kind of where do y'all want to start off with the dialogue to get the folks interested?
I'd like to mention that the ghost is in this prayer that I just read is a ghost in the very best sense of that word. Mm-hmm. And it's an elder of mine who's walked on, Dr. Darrell Bay Wilson, who still held the ability to chip arrowheads and spearheads out of church. He's an East Ote elder. That's from Accoyet, which is now called Mount Shasta, California Indian. And the elder who is saying, let's put truth into history, is Anne Marie Sayers, who's the elder from Indian Canyon in Hollister. And so these people are very, very real. Daryl's walked on. Anne Marie is still with us and has brought an incredible amount to Native California, and Daryl to all Native people worldwide. And I always feel that it's my job as a teacher, certainly, and as a displaced person coming to live here, that it's my job to bring Native voices from California specifically, locally specifically, to the forefront, to counter the myth that Native people are no longer here, or that they exist only in a certain place in the American imagination. So, yeah.
Ashe.
And yeah, for me, when I think about the concept of genetic light from the other side, I think about kind of the pride in my Native heritage, the light of being Native. That's literally the genetic light. And that's something that I draw attention to in my song Genetic Light, which I'll play later today. And when I think about John Trudell, that's a line obviously from John Trudell, and he talks a lot about being an activist for Native rights, and he shines his light as a Native a lot through his music. So that's kind of my association too with the idea of genetic light as it pertains to him. And yeah.
Cool. And
so that line comes from the song Crazy Horse, and Rico's going to give you some of that. But on the way here, we were just thinking about how he wrote this during a time when the Lakota people, and he's Santee, so he's part of the Siouan people, were and still are involved in a lawsuit against the United States government that has a new movie. It has a movie from 1980, and has a new movie Mark Ruffalo did called The Lakota Nation versus the United States. And what it is about is that the High Court in 1980 ruled that the Treaty of 1868 and then 1877 that took the Black Hills, which is where Mount Rushmore ends, was completely in violation of U.S. law. And so in 1980, that ruling was made, and the court said, well, you have to pay the Lakota people for the Black Hills. And it's their point of origin, and since 1980, these are some of the poorest people in the country, have refused to accept that money because they're saying that would constitute a sale, and they cannot sell sacred ground. And so the line in the song talks about the strength that they get and the genetic light from the other side to keep that point of resistance, to hold strong to their point of origin.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. We talked about that on the way here, and I hadn't really thought about that part of it. I think there's a beauty in there, because I know that, John Trudell was talking about the Fort Laramie Treaty and a very specific thing, but I also think the beauty of that line is that it has such an open interpretation. And, he says, like, I'll read part of Crazy Horse in a second here, but he says, like, we do not sell the land, we do not sell the air. And those are just Native laws in Native way, and so he's talking about, like, what my dad just mentioned, but he was also in a broader way talking about, how in colonial times, they were trying to take our land, and we do not sell the land, and they were, trying to sell Native land, and that's not Native way. So that's another way that I would look at that as well.
Yeah. And when we were talking the other day, right, I was thinking about my connection with this conversation and being a person who's descended from West African folks who were taken and brought here against our will, and how that's impacted our relationship with the land. Because if you're like me and descended from folks who were brought here and enslaved, you may have a very interesting relationship with the land because it was a site of forced labor for so long. And then this whole concept of 40 acres and a mule, right? Connecting with going on in the Black Hills, right? Black Hills, right? And yeah, this idea of like, you can't buy or sell the land or the air, right? And to think about that concept of like reparations, right? To think about like, well, wait a minute, there's a karmic debt here. But at the same time, it's like, how do we address that in a way that's still in harmony with the land, right? And not using the land as a site of vengeance, I guess, in this case, right? No matter how justified we may feel that vengeance may be, not poisoning the land. It's hard to not want to re-poison the land, right? In that same way. And so for me, it's important to think about when I think about reparations, for example, right? For me, it's important to think about how can that happen in a way that doesn't re-commodify the land and nature and the elements, but still gets at that karmic thing, right? that we're not just gonna let it go. And again, how do we get at this idea of reparativeness in a way that again doesn't re-traumatize the land or us?
What do you mean when you say karmic?
Like karma, right?
Okay,
I just made up that word.
Yeah, no, I like that. I was just curious. I like that word.
I make up adjectives when when you get a master's degree, you'll find out. Once you cross that threshold, you can just make up words. This idea of what I call cosmic karma, right? In this sense of like, so taking it out of this like individualness of like, when I see a white person, I'm just going, not on that level, right? But this idea of cosmic karma, right? That we collectively put energy towards things and that circles back, right? That gets fed back in. And so again, thinking about how do we, do this reparative work, but in a way that doesn't re-commodify the land and nature and the elements, right? Which I think might be a nice transition into, I think, the piece you're going to recite.
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of the first part of Crazy Horse by John Trudell. Crazy Horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. How do we sell our mother? How do we sell the stars? How do we sell the air? Crazy Horse, we hear what you say.
Ashe for the reading. Yeah. All right, folks, if you are just now tuning in, you are listening to the Sunday Dinner with DJ Dupsie. You're listening on 89.5, 90.7 FM, and 89.7 FM, KSQT Prunedale. You may also be streaming live at ksqd.org. And how super cool are you if you are? Keep streaming live on ksqd.org. I'm here in the station with my very special guest this Sunday, this month, Stan Rushworth and Rico Rushworth, or aka RicoR, right? And we're talking about a number of different things, right? But the theme of the show, right, is from John Trudell's Crazy Horse, Genetic Light from the Other Side, right? And so RicoR just recited the first part.
Yeah, it's like the first verse of the song.
Oh, yeah, the first verse of that song. And so, continuing on our conversation, and I know you're going to play a song for us in a minute here. But thinking about going back to the initial reading, right? First part, when you open the show stand, and getting back to any other part from that prayer, I think, that you want to touch on. Was there any other part of that prayer that you wanted to shed a light on?
It kind of ties into what you said about lack of vengeance, about it not being about vengeance. And I think that's a really important thing to sit with. Certainly with John's song, there's a lot of dimensions to it. One is is an aspect of holding the people of the United States to their concept of rule of law as being the primary value of the country. And these are treaties that were all violated unilaterally. And so them coming back is the country, in a sense, coming back to its sense of honor and its sense of dignity. So it's really not about vengeance. And kind of tying it into how we all then, it's like your ancestors were brought here without any choice whatsoever. A lot of people were moved around here without any choice whatsoever. We have in California between 1848 and 1876 a 90% population reduction in Native Californians. So these are some serious things to come to terms with. So in that, there's a lot of grief,
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of suffering. And in grief and pain, there's always anger, and everything goes flying in all these kinds of directions. And I was thinking about a circle when you mentioned the word, the lack of vengeance. I was thinking about a circle I was in recently that was mostly California Indians and a few white folks. And a white woman said, I really want to bond with the land. I want to come together with the land, but do I have the right to, since I'm the descendant of colonists? And you could feel her pain in that. You could feel that she felt she didn't have a right to. And two of the Native women that I was sitting with were young women, and they said, well, it's not about rights. It's about the obligation that you have to bond with the land here. And this kind of ties into something that Anne Marie Sayers talks about. Let's put truth into history. John Trudell talks about it. Darrell Wilson talked about it. The genetic lie, as John put it, everybody's indigenous to somewhere, okay? But that's not just kind of a catch-all, we're all indigenous, all right? It's really, he's saying, and he added to that, he said that the trick is you have to figure out what that means to you and how you're going to live by it. And I think this is what we're called upon here, okay? This is what we're called upon to do.
With indigeneity comes responsibility.
Big time.
I get what you mean, right? That it's not just like, it's like, we're all indigenous to somewhere. It's not meant in that flippant way, right? It's meant that, no, we're all indigenous to somewhere, right? And so what does that mean? Even if we're not in the place of our direct indigeneity, we're still a part of an ecosystem somewhere, right? All this earth connects. And so, we still have, like I was saying, in terms when I think about my history, right, that I still have a responsibility to this land, no matter how I ended up on it. Well, not no matter how I ended up, but like given how I ended up on it, right, I still have a responsibility to it, even if that initial point of contact was one of pain and forced labor and stuff like that, because of all the work that my ancestors did to liberate us from that situation, right, to now give me the space to be in a healthy relationship with the land. And so I think that's part of that. That's part of kind of that grief process you talked about, right? That rather than trying to make history something that makes us feel good, right, or that's entertaining, it's that truth in history is that sometimes it is about having to go through that grief process, even if it's something that you didn't live through personally. It's about how do you take on not just the grief of it, right, but then that comes with then the joy and celebration of like, oh my goodness, look at all we overcame. And so, it's a balance. It's an interesting balance to then wrestle with that, balance that, and then now in this present time, how do I actualize on it? It's
the responsibility and obligation, right? And those kind of go hand in hand. I mean, that's always how I think about it. Yeah.
So I know you're gonna play a couple songs for us on the drums.
Yeah.
RicoR.
I'll play one of my songs right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Get you queued up. Get you ready.
Sure.
You want any cue up to the song? Or you just want to go right into it?
No, I can talk about it.
All right.
Yeah. So this is actually an upcoming single. It's gonna come out in a couple days. I wrote this in. I'm going to shout him out. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Ronaldo Wilson is one of my poetry instructors at UCSC.
All right. Shout out.
And I wrote this in his class, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, the concept we're talking about today about genetic life from the other side kind of sparked the idea of this song. And I sometimes like to go from just like one title or one idea. And this was one of those. So yeah, the song is called Genetic Light. And then the alternate title is Hibernated Heart Bags.
All right.
Which I really like. My genetic light. My genetic light. Yeah, my genetic light. My genetic light. Come on. Red skin, red heart, and a red mind. I pray to be happy and always kind. Red skin, red heart, a red mind. I pray to be happy and always kind. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind. Like Anne Frank's diary to combine. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind. Like Anne Frank's diary to combines. The genetic light from the other side. 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 The nauseous light, there is no purity. Purity comes from more diversity. The fan mail creeps into the skies. Crowds buzzing past those lyrical lies. All day in every possible which way. I feel like I've been calling the shots for too long. Past those bonds that release the wrong. Into the salutation to the sun. Kenine Sukkah, they didn't die. They just came back much more alive. If you understand, there is no percentage. Only parents is this anti-percentage. Here I am, I live as loud as I can. And I'm careful not to destroy and expand. That's what the Nazis did, and look where it got them. At the bottom of the moral list, everybody fought them. Red skin, red heart, and a red mind. I pray to be happy and always kind. Red skin, red heart, a red mind. I pray to be happy and always kind. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind. Like Anne Frank's diary to combine. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind. Like Anne Frank's diary to combine. Indigenous heart, where did you go? Feed the seed that supports the flow. Creating escape tip to and fro. Indigenous heart, where did you go? Placed upon the soundscape of an evil seed, casting downwards, casting that fluorescent breed, crying passants, crying so. Indigenous heart, where did you go? Is the hibernated heart bags, hibernated heart, all these different pieces, all these different parts, the hibernated heart bags, hibernated heart, all these different pieces, all these different parts. Red skin, red heart, and a red mind. I pray to be happy and always kind. Red skin, red heart, a red mind. I pray to be happy and always kind. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind. Like Anne Frank's diary to combine. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind. Like Anne Frank's diary to combines. The genetic light from the other side. 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 Yeah.
Ashe, ashe, ashe for the song. So, any particular line or part of that song you want to highlight for us and draw attention to?
Yeah, so the first one that's kind of important to look at here is the chorus, is be pure in heart and be pure in mind. Mm-hmm. And I am a huge, I would use the word buff. I think I would say that I'm a Holocaust buff. So I like to study, all genocides, specifically the European genocide and my own genocide, the American genocide. I think about it a lot on a regular basis. And I recently, last year, actually like about a year ago today, around this time, my mom and I went to see Anne Frank's grave in Bergen-Belsen, which was personally a very emotional experience for me. And I recently read Anne Frank's diary in English because I took a Holocaust class like a year ago where I read it for the first time. And I got it in German now. I haven't read it in German yet, but her diary is very important to me. I've seen a lot of kind of movie depictions about her life, etc. And one of her famous quotes is, "Be pure in heart and be pure in mind." And it was really cool to put that in a song. It's kind of my first time doing that. I thought that I would kind of pay respects to her because I kind of see her as a ghostly sister in a lot of ways. And I really relate to her, and I relate to her story a lot. So that's the first line. That's important, and that's the chorus. Be pure in heart, be pure in mind, like Anne Frank's diary, to combine. So there's that line. And then next, just a little bit of like a pop culture thing, but I think it's important also for this conversation because it's a very indigenous movie. Brother Bear, which is my favorite Disney movie. And I talk about Kenai and Sitka, which are two characters from that film that both undergo like a very important transformation process, which is a part of the story. And, you know, you look at a lot of indigenous cultures, a lot of people will, you know, they'll have these stories of people who turn into animals to learn important life lessons. You know, that was kind of part of what sparked the idea for that movie in the first place. So the line is, Kenai and Sitka, they didn't die. They just came back much more alive. And that refers to this really important transformation process. And then lastly, it's just kind of a little bit of context, but crowds buzzing past those lyrical lies. You know, to me, I think about how we're living in a society where there's constantly all these lies being put out. And people just kind of live those lies, and they don't really think about the fact that they're lies. So that to me is kind of what that line means. And I actually got it from an educational rap song from a band called Vocabulary. And they actually just have a line about onomatopoeia, and they use crowds buzzing as an example of onomatopoeia because it is. So that's where I got that idea from, which is kind of fun. But those are just the lines that I think are kind of cool to talk about.
Nice. And now, so thinking about like that genetic light part, right? And now maybe layering in what we talked about the other day, genetic memory, right? And thinking back to, I guess, quote unquote pre-civilization human experience, and what our relationship looked like with the natural world, right? And thinking about that for a little bit, and so just wanted to open up the conversation to that part of it, in terms of that hunger for genetic memory.
I'm glad you brought that up because I kept feeling that while Rico was singing, and you know, I was at a presentation that my friend Dr. Trudell did on his book The End of Ice, which chronicles the end of ice. And it's one of those books that you read and you go, oh my gosh, you know, if you don't believe in climate change, the evidence is just so overwhelming. And that was even some years ago. And in that, somebody was saying, well, the Earth will be a lot better without humans. And I was thinking, gosh, you know, Darrell Wilson always said, Naponia, great mystery, Memu Ishie, we are your children. You know, and I thought, well, the Earth without humans is kind of like saying that a mom would be better off without her kids, you know. And it ties into kind of what Lila June talks about, is that we're a keystone species, okay? Yeah. And we have a relationship with the Earth. We're of Earth, we're of her, we're of everything, every element, and we have a deep relationship and a responsibility to make that a good relationship. So I think the genetic light, perhaps, that we're talking about feeling, whether you're indigenous or not indigenous, you know, it doesn't matter in a sense, because the genetic light that we're feeling is from the other side, perhaps, of what we now call civilization, okay? Which is not a very long period of time.
Nope.
So we have human history that goes back tens of thousands of years. I think there's a lot more evidence, the more I study it, of humans living rightly on the planet than living in this exploitative manner, okay? And I think it's really important to study that and to dive into that and let those feelings, teaching Native American literature for, well over 30 years, and my colleagues that teach it now, the classes are packed. And they're not just packed with California Indians or, Native peoples. They're packed with all kinds of people that want those stories, that want what that energy is of connection. Okay, that's where that hunger is. It's a human hunger and a memory to what we know we can do rightly. We just have to figure out how to get out of all these syndromes of destruction, right? So that's what it makes me feel like. And John Trudell has so many layers to him, and I would really encourage everybody to dial into him, because he was way ahead of his time and right on time.
I also want to say, I didn't say this earlier, but when I read Crazy Horse, that song, for me personally, is a huge inspiration. Excuse me. I have a song from my album that came out a year ago. It's called Message to the People. And the song is Optimist Avenue, and John Trudell. So that song specifically, Crazy Horse, was a huge inspiration for that song. And I've also kind of used just his ideologies throughout a lot of my different pieces. And I just wanted to point that out. So he's a huge inspiration for both of us.
That's what's up. And so, if you don't mind, transitioning to, I know another reading that you wanted to do, Stan. Are we good? Good. All right. Yeah. And so, remembering, right? Remembering.
Yeah. This there is a great remembering. I think we were talking about it the other day, and that's what we're facing. So this piece is really short. I'm going to read. It's just a couple paragraph excerpts out of a historical novel that I wrote called Going to Water, the Journal of Beginning Rain. And the character speaking is Will Rogers, who was a great Cherokee. They called him a humorist. He was really a philosopher. The main character of the book, Agana, Beginning Rain, is seeing all the perpetrators in history, and it brings her down. And so she wants to forget it. So Will says to her, "It's the forgetting is what it is," he said, then repeated it. "That's what it is, the forgetting." He took off his hat and put a finger to his lips. "That's what you got, the desire to forget. But you've got to reverse that. Now think about it and remember what happened." The way I see it is that if I forget, I limit my mind, I shrink it down into what I might think for a moment would get me by, but it turns out it's not enough then. I got to remember. I just got to, because it's there. It's all there for the remembering. Now, most folks around here don't want to, and that's to their loss, if you know what I mean. That's a limit to their minds, and when you limit your mind, you shrink your heart. And I'd never want to tie my heart down or to shrink it in any way. There's too much going on, too much out in the world to get touched by and to touch. It's all just too big, And if you shrink your heart, why, you shrink everything there is in this world. Then he says, don't forget anything and hold it gently inside of you, because it's all still moving. It's all still moving, and when you remember everything, you get a say in where it goes.
Ashe for the reading. And if you're just now tuning in, folks, you're listening to the Sunday Dinner here on K-Squid 90.7 FM, 89.5 FM, and 89.7 KSQT Prunedale. You may also be streaming live at ksqd.org. And how super cool are you if you are? Keep streaming live on ksqd.org. I'm here this evening with my special guests, Stan Rushworth and RicoR, and we're talking about genetic light from the other side, as well as a number of other things. You just heard a reading reading, remembering, right? And so now we're going to get back into our conversation with some other pieces, right, that I know we want to read to spark some more discussion, keep this conversation going. So, RicoR, I'm going to turn to you for Apology Accepted.
Yeah. So this is one of my poems. You know, I'm a musician and a rapper, but I also write a lot of poetry, particularly kind of in my classes, and I don't get the chance to really do it on air, so this is kind of a first for me, so that this will be fun. But this is inspired by Aileen Miles. She has a poem called Sorry Tree, and if you guys don't know her, she's a great writer. I read her in one of my creative writing classes, my first quarter at UCSE. And this is a shout out to Kendall Grady, who was my instructor. She's incredible. I wrote this in her class, so this is called Apology Accepted. Sorry land. I apologize for the destruction. I apologize for the hate. I apologize for the ignorance, using you as bait. I apologize for the European colonizer's heart, ripping this land apart. I apologize for the destructive guy that comes through and gouges your bloody eyes. I apologize for the wrath of the Titan on your sleeve, the tree hugger discrimination being the norm, the plan, the wheel. I'm sad when I see native song and dance lie in danger, some slowly fading away as the Western world bats the remaining impure peeps away. I apologize. I never meant for any of this to happen. I'm sorry that now we are left to clean up, we young'uns. I'm sorry that some people don't believe in climate change. I'm sorry that some people are too impure to make a wish upon a star that this will all go away. I'm sorry for the genocide. We realize what they've done. I'm sorry that people still don't know our history when we ask them, and that most people will not truly understand the message behind Indian eyes. I'm sorry that the grass is greener on the existential crisis side of the lawn than on the side of peace. I'm sorry that John Trudell died. I'm sorry for fig bar mixes and teeth-cutting tarantula tentacles. I'm sorry that we can't have fun. I'm sorry, not sorry that you feel attacked. I apologize for the warmth. I'm trying hard not to blink. I'm sorry that indigeneity is so gone that even feathers are unseen. I apologize for the stigma associated with death. Why is the grass so uneven? I apologize for the false showers. I apologize for the hair in a bag and the teeth on the ground, and of course for the terrifying screams. I'm sorry. Sorry land, sorry water, sorry air, sorry fire, sorry life, sorry dissidents, sorry tree.
Ashe for the reading. Yeah. And you were saying that you came up with this piece, you created this piece in a class?
Yeah, it was my first creative writing class at UCSE, which was really a life changer for me because I had Kendall. Kendall was an incredible instructor, and she really encouraged a lot of freedom. And so there's this poem by Aileen Miles called Sorry Tree, which I kind of used as the starting point for this. And, you know, I have the last line of the poem is Sorry Tree. But there's actually, the original poem's a little more quirky, and it has some other kind of quirky elements in it. But I decided to kind of take some of those out for the purpose of, you know, this more kind of holistic conversation. But yeah, like a lot of my poems, that started out in a really good class.
Awesome. Stan, I'm going to turn to you real quick because I could tell you're over there, feeling it. Any thoughts coming to mind?
Well, I think
as you hear those words?
I think Rico's words speak to all the grief that underlies the avoidance that we see in the school system here, among other things, just besides the school system. For me as an educator, I think it starts in the school system.
What's that avoidance you were talking about?
Pardon?
What's that avoidance that you're talking
the
about?
avoidance of what Henry is saying, let's put truth into history. You know, how many times I've been in a place where I ask people, what do we call the folks that oversaw the 90% reduction of California Indians between 1848 and the 1870s? Nobody comes up with the answer, but the answer is very obvious. They're called the 49ers. So we have a sports team named
the 49ers,
after, in one way of thinking about it, it's the celebration of the gold rush, and another way of thinking about it, it's a celebration of a whole lot of death and destruction.
Ew.
Now, how do we...
That doesn't feel good on Sunday Night Football.
How do we look at that?
No, it doesn't.
How do we look at that? See, how do we compute that? That's the whole thing.
My Sunday Night Football.
So we can fall over into the grief and become cynical and become nihilistic and all the rest of that, or we can look at it and say, okay, a huge mistake was made here. Okay, so let's get to the roots of that mistake. All right. And a colleague of mine, Melissa K. Nelson, talks about that, how important it is to see that. You know, in all of our individual lives, we make mistakes. That's how we get wisdom, right? From realizing and admitting the fact that we was dumb. Okay? So why shouldn't we be doing that as a society? You know? And it's a collective thing. We all have to look at it. You know, every single one of us has to look at how we take part in that and clean that out. You know, you know, like we were talking before about a grieving process. You know, admitting that grief is really important, but you can't stay locked into it. Right? Then you get angry. Then you go into revenge. Then you go into all these things, and that's not it. It's a matter of the light. This is what I get from John. You know, it's the genetic light from the other side. It's the human experience from the other side of the civilization that has made these huge mistakes. All right, the people who came here, the newcomers that came here and did this, they'd had the same thing done to them in Europe. Okay, so they were really damaged. So they came here and did more damage. We all see this in abusive family patterns, all right? So in a sense, this is what we're caught in. So let's look at it. Let's simply look at it and celebrate the fact that we can look at it.
And then I think one of the things that I appreciate about my generation and then Gen Z. Are you Gen Z? Are you late?
I forget what the definition of Gen Z is.
I forget where millennials and Gen Zs begin.
Yeah.
But one thing that we've been called that I really appreciate is cycle breakers, right? Curse break that our two generations in particular, right? And in a lot of in a cynical way, right, a lot of it gets called like woo-woo and fluff because we're a lot more open in talking about the therapy and the mental health needs and all the kind of stuff, right? That now people think, oh, everybody's got mental health. When it's like, yeah, we kind of do. When you look at the history and like, how could we not? And so, but just the fact that our generations are now like really activating on it and like saying like, these things, we need to really begin to heal these things, right? To begin to acknowledge them and then now to do the work to heal it. And I really, for all the things that can be said about our generations, I think that's where like, I think a lot of folks do kind of give us that kind of credence, right? And kind of step back as like, they may be a little quirky, but they're out here trying to break some curses.
Well, I want to say too, like kind of on this topic of remembrance, another shout out to one of my instructors. I took Martin Rizzo Martinez's class at UCSC this last quarter, or not this last quarter, a couple of quarters ago, but my last year at UCSC. And we read a great article by Charles Sepulveda. It's called Hallucinations of the Spanish Imaginary and the Idealized California.
All right.
And there's a great line in there where he talks about the mission bells, because kind of the first part of the class we talked a lot about, the context of the missions and the misconception of the missions. And, Marty's incredible because he brings in so much just outside knowledge, and he's worked at the missions, he's worked with state parks, he's worked with local natives. And so the class was one of the most diverse and most vibrant classes I've taken at UCSC. It's really, and he knows this, I've told him this, like it's a life changer for me. Having been in that class, it was the first time I really had a native perspective in a class at UCSC specifically, which was amazing. But he talks about the mission bells and how the mission bells are, quote, both a call to remember and a call to forget. So I like that line, because like I said earlier, sometimes I'll just like kind of take one line and use it in a song if I really like it. Sometimes use a different meaning for it or whatever, but I just really like that. In the article, he was talking about the mission bells, but I also just kind of take that in a more general sense. The song I'm using it for is going to be on my upcoming album. It's called Duck-Faced Vibe is the name of the song.
All right.
And I'm kind of attributing that to ignorance. And it does have a lot of indigenous context in the song of just like ignorance on indigenous issues. I'll just read the verse that I have where I incorporated that line.
All right.
So the line that I have using Charles's quote is the following. There's a call to remember, then there's the call to forget. I remember the motto, I remember the lessons as of yet. He said without heart we fall apart. I remember the way with words and the way those words can take you far. So that's how I incorporated that.
Ashe.
But once again, I thought it was cool that he kind of touched on the mission bells because they really do remind us of what happened, but then it's also just as easy to forget what happened, And there's a lot of dynamics there, but I really like that.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So many different places we can go. But as usual, the hour just goes by so quickly. So want to make sure we get to a couple things if we need to. Stan, did you do your reading from Daryl Babe Wilson?
I want to read just a couple lines from Dr. Daryl Babe Wilson.
All right. And then we can go into you want to go into your final song with the drum?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But before I do that, I want to mention that I love watching football. So any 49er fans out there, don't take it personally what I'm saying. It's education.
It's education, right? It's just make you think a little bit more.
That's what it is. Okay, this is Dr. Daryl Babe Wilson. It is taught in our lessons and legends and by our elders that the people are responsible for life upon earth. Honoring the lessons then becomes a mandate from great power, great wonder, great spirit that we are bound to obey. All people must obey the great law so the sweetness of life can continue.
You ha ha Hokratea now ha ha Shikayu ha ha Hokratea to revolutionize and indigenize instead, yeah, with Indian eyes to revolutionize and indigenize instead, yeah, with Indian eyes. Now there have been many controversies regarding indigenous history. Some people say we don't exist. Greg Castro said his root of us to still exist. Some people say we're not as plentiful in the United States. They say there aren't that many at all. Some people say there weren't that many natives here at first contact. That is not a fact. Some people, way too much to bear, seem to claim that they don't really care about the facts and info. They don't know what they're in for after they start reading articles like Suck, Sick, the Anthro. The bottom line is that it should be considered a crime not to study native ways somewhere along the line, because once you do, then you will see where more just came a bubbling into redwood trees, yeah? Yeah, where more just came a bubbling into redwood trees, yo. Yo, where more just came a bubbling into redwood trees, ha, Shikayu, ha, Hokratea now, ha, Shikayu, ha, Ha, Hokotea, no we don't have to revolutionize, we just have to indigenize instead. No we don't have to revolutionize, we just have to indigenize. Come on, to revolutionize, indigenize instead. Yeah, with Indian eyes, to revolutionize, indigenize instead. Yeah, with Indian eyes, there's the genetic light from the other side, the genetic light from the other side, the genetic light from the other side, the genetic light from the other side. Yeah. From the other side, yeah.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. And before we close out with listening to a little bit of Crazy Horse by John Trudell, I want to thank you all for listening to another episode of Sunday, for joining us at the table once again for another healthy helping of the Sunday dinner. I hope you're full. I know I'm full, and could go for more. And so I want to give big ups, big thanks to my guests today. Again, RicoR three-peat, third time back. Hope to have you back again. Yeah. And Stan, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hope to have you back again. And so next month, join us for a September surprise. And the reason I say surprise is because I don't know what the show's going to be about yet. So it's going to be a surprise to all of us, but looking forward to it and looking forward to having you back on the Sunday dinner here on K-Squid, food for thought and food for the soul. Now let's take a listen to John Trudell's Crazy Horse for a little bit.
Crazy Horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. How do we sell our mother? How do we sell the stars? How do we sell the air? Crazy Horse, we hear what you say. Too many people standing their ground, standing the wrong ground. Predator's face, he possessed a race. Possession, a war that doesn't end. Children of God feed on children of earth. Days people don't care for people. These days are the hardest. Material fields, material harvest. Decoration on chain that binds, mirrors gold. The people lose their minds. Crazy Horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. Today is now and then. Dream smokes touch the clouds. On a day when death didn't die, real world time tricks, shadows lie. Red, white, perception, deception. Predator tries civilizing us, but the tribes will not go without return. Genetic light from the other side. A song from the heart. Our hearts to give. The wild days The glory days live. Crazy horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. How do we sell our mother? How do we sell the stars? How do we sell the air? Crazy horse, we hear what you say. We are the seventh generation. The seventh generation.